Hey everybody, welcome back. Instead of trying a different
Dr.
one.
Nick.
Hey, Dr. Nick.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well,
Now we're on The Simpsons.
you throw me way off. I wanted to, because you made fun of my hello last time, so I didn't want to do
I know, you do you.
hello everybody.
You do you.
Yeah. So instead of going for Count Dracula, you went for Dr. Nick.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm trying to say is we are back in the room and haven't left the room actually because we're all in quarantine at the moment at time of recording.
Whoop, whoop.
In the current climate. But
And even by the time of release, we're probably still going to be in
probably,
quarantine.
but you know what? It's a great time to talk about video games and a great time to play games because that's a good way of keeping yourself occupied while staying indoors and staying safe.
Gamers were made for this.
To be honest, my life
really
is not any different.
My life has not changed.
The introvert in me is like, yeah, I've prepared my whole life for this.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
So I am Chris, joined again by my brothers Adam and Eric.
How you doing?
And in today's episode, we are talking about our favorite games from 2018. We are getting really close to the end of our first topic, which is just what were your favorite games from the last decade, going
by.
year by year. Yeah.
Yep. Good job, folks.
And then we'll be opening up. What? Well done, everybody. We couldn't have done this without. Well, you know what? Actually, there's no point in making a podcast if no one's listening to you.
That's true,
So, yeah.
Thanks to everyone for listening to us.
Thank you for listening. Okay, so like I started the intro differently, I am also going to open up the discussion. Normally I ask someone else to start, but yeah, I'm gonna go right off the bat. So like again, this time around, our favorite game of this year, we have talked about it previously. It's actually the same game. We all have the same favorite. So we're gonna start with our second favorite, and then go into our number one after that. And so right off the bat, my second favorite game from 2018 was Spiderman on the PS4. What do you guys think? We've all
Eric?
played it. Have we all played
yeah,
Spider-Man?
yeah, we played it. Yeah, yeah.
You platinumed it?
Platinum.
Did you?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
You liked it that much?
I thought you said previously there was only like 2 games you'd platinumed before.
No, there's 20. I said there's 20 games that I've had.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear the 0.
That's 2 by 10.
That's that's because the word 0 is not in 20.
What?
You didn't hear the 0 because 0 is not in 20.
I am not able for this. That's okay. Yeah,
It's a bit early.
That's true. That's right. I didn't hear that.
You get a coffee.
So what did anyone else particularly like about Spider-Man before I tell you what I like?
You going? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go for sure. Well, just the bring back the good old classic fun swinging around New York, the interactions with everyone, just really good crack, like good fun.
It is great fun. They definitely it's the best Spider-Man game since Spider-Man 2 on PS2 and better again, I would say. Like they've improved on it in every possible way, but the swinging felt so good. So good. And which is the first question everyone asks, right? Like when it comes to a Spider-Man game, they go, "How's the swinging?" Like they don't even like seriously, like nobody
How's it swinging, huh?
like it was literally every reviewer. Like I'd imagine the game developers were probably like we worked really hard on nailing the story and the characters and the writing and designing the characters and making the music, designing our own Spider-Man suit, coming up with our own original Spider-Man story and all this, and like really refining the combat and everything, and just everyone. Yeah, but how's the swinging though?
Yeah.
Which I'm sure they are proud of, but I'm sure at a point they were probably like, will one reviewer please bring up one of our other like aspects of this game that we spent a long time making? But
it's version of the Batman cape. You know, like
yes, the swing and the swinging is phenomenal. They did nail it, I think, and the running on the buildings and stuff feels like perfect.
Yeah, I think that's what's really nice about the game is that there's nothing, there's no kind of nothing that stops you. You know, you don't hit a wall and then that's it. You're done.
Yeah.
Something that like the Assassin's Creed games, I think, you suffers quite a bit when you're climbing. It should be really, really fluid, but oftentimes you go to try and jump towards a building and he jumps to the wrong building and you fall to your death and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so it just pulls you out of the flow. Whereas in this Spider-Man game, it's like, it's, if you hit a building, it's grand. You can just run up that building.
It's nuts, isn't it?
And even if you fall like a really great height, you don't take any damage.
No, because it's Spider-Man.
He just lands and it's like it feel like he does the hero's landing.
Yeah, badass.
Yeah.
They also did a really good job of bringing New York to life as well. It's so full of.
It was a lived-in city.
That's one thing I really appreciate with this versus, other open world games, but even the last Batman game that we were discussing.
Yeah, of course.
It's like that's one thing that I think they missed an opportunity is to make Gotham feel like a living city, and they nailed it with New York.
They did, and it's so interesting. Like, and it's unavoidable. Like, you can't not compare this to the Arkham franchise. I feel like it's really hard not to, because, and in many ways, in good ways, like it's very like that series. Yeah. In terms of how it plays, in terms of the combat, and even like the taking on multiple enemies or the stealth scenarios and stuff. Like, it's very like the Arkham gameplay, but that's a good thing. Like, it's like I remember playing the Arkham game. I think it was after Arkham City. Spider-Man after Batman would be like, he's my next favorite superhero. And so I was hoping they'd make a Spider-Man game at some point, and I do remember saying, just use this gameplay, this is perfect. Like, you just use the webs to grapple up onto buildings and then stealth take down people, and sure, his spider sense can be the countermeasure thing, the thing that flashes above your head, which they did. So they took it all and it works. But I think it's really interesting that for a Spider-Man game, it needs to be during daytime, right? And a Batman game needs to be at night. It's just that's the contrast. This is a brighter, and in terms of tone, like there is like emotional stuff and some dark moments, but it is a funner, brighter game than the Arkham series, I think.
Yeah, they definitely the attitude of the game is like they really nailed it. It has the almost the Sam Raimi style, but it also has the new kind of Marvel, the kind of Tom Holland style Spider-Man in there as well. Yeah, it does. So it's like it's just a perfect blend. It's not necessarily like this is our version of Spider-Man. They really did a good job of kind of going, this is the Marvel version of Spider-Man. Well, it's sort of like, you're dead on actually, because it's like when you play the Arkham games, you go, that is definitively Batman. And like, so the movie versions of Batman, like they focus on an aspect of Batman, and they usually, well, not all of them, but a lot of them have nailed that particular aspect of Batman, whether it's, Christian Bale's, broken kind of a man who's just trying to come to terms with his childhood trauma, right? Or you have, Ben Affleck's Batman, which was a lot more like...
The tactical brute.
The tactical brute, yeah, exactly, yeah. Like, the Arkham Batman actually has them all, like the detective aspect, and like everything. And this Spider-Man, I felt, had all of the... Like, this Spider-Man, I wish was the movie Spider-Man. The current one. Yeah. Because, don't get me wrong, like Tom Holland is a good Spider-Man, but I don't think he's the best. I don't think he's as good as people hold him up to be. Yeah. Like, I preferred Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. And I preferred that Spider-Man world. It felt more like the Spider-Man I had watched in, like, the 90s cartoons. Yeah. And since then, I've lacked that. I haven't had that kind of Spider-Man feeling again. Like, even the Amazing Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield, still for me didn't quite hit it didn't feel like the same Spider-Man universe. And this game, I felt it. When he was interacting with Mary Jane, I felt it again. I was like, that's Spider-Man. And even like they have a Stan Lee cameo in it, right? Like, yeah. And he actually goes, I always wanted you two to get together, him and Mary Jane. I was like, yeah, me too. Who are all these other like girls showing up in these movies? I know he had other girlfriends in the comics, but like, come on. Peter Parker, Mary Jane, it's just iconic. Like, yeah, it's a great game. I loved as well their depiction of Dr. Octopus. Yeah, I wasn't expecting him, and I thought he was fucking awesome. I thought he was great. Really, really good.
I didn't get that far into it, but I know he's the villain.
Oh, you haven't cleared it?
No, I never cleared it.
Oh, really?
I've just got bored of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What did you find boring about it then? That's interesting.
That is interesting.
because it's a fun game.
Yeah. It is a fun game.
I'd recommend it to fucking anyone to play. Like,
boss fights were okay. The fighting the enemies was very jagged and actually wasn't that fluid. Okay. There was just a lot of like, I'm in the middle of fighting someone, now I have to dodge. While with Batman, I was actually able to counter and keep going. Right. But there was a lot of stopping and starting in fights, and it kind of just the swinging was class. That was great. And interacting with all the civilians and stuff on the town was great. And yeah, the interacting with all the characters and character designs was good. But just all the fights were like, yeah, I've done this. I did this. This is the Arkham games. Like,
well, that's the point I was going to say. Is like what I like about it is initially I did go in playing it expecting the Arkham game.
Yeah.
But the combat is actually quite different. You do have to tackle it a lot differently. So if you go in expecting it to work like Arkham Asylum, you're going to get your ass beat.
Oh yeah, you do got to.
It plays much differently.
You got to think on your toes, I think.
So yeah, instead of counter fight, it's dodge fight. And you gotta kind of use your environment more. Use your gadgets a hell of a lot more. So you're kind of like building combos, and it's not just as simple as just beat down. Because Spider-Man, that's not his strength. His strength comes down to, his environment and using his webs. Whereas Batman can just straight up punch through anyone.
And webbing up the enemies feels great.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah.
I even like the little some of the little side quest stuff, which like some of it is stuff that comes from his character in the comics, like trying to find a certain spot in the city and take a picture of it. As like the photography thing, like that makes a lot of sense. But the backpacks, that was really cool. Like, because in the movies they have done like scenes where he'll throw a backpack and web it to a building. So they were like, well, let's do a thing where like he has done that multiple times and had to buy new school bags, and then you can find them.
But they also sound like ones. I mean, and it only works for Spider-Man. I think with any other superhero, it doesn't really work to do these kind of mundane tasks, right? But he's the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Exactly, yeah.
So he can do all these like, oh yeah, my cat's stuck in a tree kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And it works because it's also a callback to like the earlier adventures of Spider-Man in the early comics. Like he wasn't taking on these huge world-ending villains. He was just helping his local,
But that's what works for me in a Spider-Man story. Yeah. And it's like you go back to the famous quote, with great power comes great responsibility. I haven't felt that be apparent in a Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 2, personally. Yeah. I know they've tried to push it as part of a theme, but I don't think they've made it as apparent. Like he hasn't been struggling with as much going on because they've been focusing either on making it really serious in Andrew Garfield's case or making it really fun and lighthearted in Tom Holland's case, and they haven't found that right balance. And in this game, I felt it again, where he was like, I'm trying to help down at the shelter there. I'm trying to help Dr. Octavius in my job here. I'm trying to go to university and do my studies there. And I'm trying to be Spider-Man. And there's this thing going on. I'm trying to help the police. And after a while, he actually does get overwhelmed. And then he finds himself, I'm trying to help Miles. Miles is a great addition.
That was fantastic.
That was really good.
It's the end of chapter. I did get to the end of Act 1, and that is a great ending to the act.
Brilliant, yeah.
Yeah, it's very good. That
scene is really good. When there's like an attack at City Hall or something.
Oh, with Miles? Yeah.
No, that was really
And you see it from his perspective, don't you?
Yes.
You play as him, there's some really nice story beats in it because well, firstly, the way the game opens up, which is just straight in. Like straight from cutscene into gameplay. That's fantastic.
Yeah, straight in. Yeah, it's great.
Just doing the usual Spider-Man stuff, like the car chases in it.
Yeah.
Way better than what is in Arkham Knight.
Yeah, no, they're really
phenomenal.
Good.
Yeah. And then the way the story just ranks up and the villains become much more dangerous. I suppose the stakes are much higher, and then the whole game gets darker. So we go from you're playing during the day, and then it becomes nighttime as well. So that scene where they break out the six, like that is just such a good scene.
It's brilliant, and like more and more, he's getting beat down, and he's not he's not able for them. Yeah, it's so good.
And the way you can change your costumes and stuff.
Yeah,
each costume has a benefit outside of just being cosmetic.
It has an ability, yeah.
That's really
come with different
cool.
abilities.
I'm starting to think like when I play this is like the same thing as Horizon Zero Dawn, Like I just wasn't in the mood to play it at the time, and that's why I couldn't get into it.
If you replay it now, you're gonna be like,
yeah, no, it's class.
God. No, like I mean, it's a phenomenal game.
I went in not expecting much. If I'm gonna be honest.
Well,
I thought it was just going to be. I thought it was going overhyped, and I thought it was going to. Its similarities to Batman. And kind of, just Batman has done all the hard work, and therefore they're just going to take it and reskin it as Spider-Man. That was my attitude towards it. But when I went in and played it, I was like, and relearned how you should fight in it as well, because I was using the kind of Arkham style combat, which is not how you should play it. It doesn't work that way. So when you rethink and play it the way they want you to play it, it's a fantastic game.
Really, I was always really excited for a Spider-Man game, because I love him. But when I saw the footage, when I saw the first footage, I was like, "Oh, that looks great. That looks really good." Yeah. And then I saw more footage, and they were showing off the villain and stuff, who I'd never heard of. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not really that interested in that. That doesn't look great. I was wrong. The villain, Debbie Downer, Mr. Negative, he was awesome. He's really cool. Like I'd never
heard
of
him. His backstory and everything is really cool, isn't it?
It's fucking awesome. But it actually worked. Like they didn't deviate away from it too much, because I looked them up, because that's what I do when it comes to comic book villains I've never heard of. Because I know quite a lot of them, and I just had never heard of this guy. And I thought they'd made him up for the game, and I was like, come on, like Spider-Man has a great range of villains. There's no need to make one up just for a game. Like you could definitely pull from the ones that are there. But he does exist. He was introduced to like the 2000s comics. That's why. So like most of the ones I knew him from like the 90s cartoons and stuff.
Yeah.
He didn't exist yet. So but yeah, he has like a great backstory and like this really cool ability. And I just thought the visuals after a while, like I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. Like, and he has this like split personality thing going on, which mirrors Peter Parker's kind of dual personality. So I actually thought he was really cool in the end.
Well, I did find it interesting because with the Arkham games, they take place like you can say that they're like the last story nearly. You know, like as in all the comics would lead up to this, or all the cartoons would lead up to that. So it is already kind of taken for granted that you would know what happened to Barbara Gordon and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, he's now on his like third Robin and all that kind of stuff. Whereas with Spider-Man, it kind of does a little bit of both. Yeah. Some of it is like, okay, Harry is gone and all this kind of stuff. He's already been with Mary Jane, etc. So we're now introducing the second Spider-Man as well.
That's right, yeah.
Whereas, but they also have the whole, Octavius is not Dr. Octopus yet.
That's right, yeah.
So it's really interesting that they kind of
blended both. Yeah,
they're playing with the timeline, and I think it worked really well in the game. But I did like, there's something powerful in knowing, because it's not okay. Like we're not spoiling the game by saying Dr. Octavius, who you start off friends with, becomes Dr. Octopus, right? No, because everyone knows that. Yeah. But there's something great in it in that you know more than the character knows. Like Peter does not know Dr. Octavius is going to turn into this villain. Yeah. And slowly but surely, because you're working with him and you're getting to know him over time, you do these like little experiments with him and stuff, and slowly but surely you see him crack over time.
And nearly every really good. Every subtle thing that he does, like he slightly loses his temper or whatever.
Yeah, it's all little.
To everyone else, that's not a big deal, but to you as a player, you're like, oh, geez.
Yeah, because I know where this is going.
I know where this is going to go.
And I have to say, that boss fight at the end is fucking epic.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
It's really good.
What's your favorite boss fight in the game? Because, Eric, I agree with Eric, they're not great.
No, okay, I'm going to say the boss fights for me are not better than... I hate that I do have to draw comparisons, but especially when it comes to the boss fights, I find I do. They're not better than the Arkham boss fights, right? They don't surpass them. But my favorite boss fight is probably one of the Mr. Negative ones, to be honest, because some of them were just really, really, had really cool visuals. And then other than that, probably the Dr. Octopus one at the end. I thought it was really good. Like, the Scorpion one is cool, but
I quite like
you can't help but find yourself going, well, this is like a Scarecrow sequence.
And I've seen
one. It is, but I really like it though.
Or like the Rhino is a Bane segment.
Seen one of my friends fight. There's a bit where you fight Rhino and Scorpion at the same time.
Yeah.
So Rhino obviously looked at Rhino and was like, well, that's just Bane from Arkham Asylum, and then Scorpion is just a giant nuisance.
All right. No, that fight's okay, but there's a bit where you play as Miles.
Okay.
And you have to sneak away from the Rhino.
And it's like Arkham Origins?
It is exactly the sequence of Arkham Origins when you're trying to stay away from Bane.
All right.
Yeah, it's exactly that.
Yeah, I quite like the oh man, what's his name? I'm getting so mixed up with them now.
What's that?
I was basically going to call him Solomon Grundy, but he's not Solomon Grundy.
Tombstone.
Tombstone, yeah, he's basically Solomon Grundy.
Yeah. He's awesome.
That was a pretty cool moment, I thought.
Yeah, I love as
but
well.
That's only a side quest.
Yeah, it is. But I love as well and some of the little side missions are actually really good. There's a cool one I thought was cool anyway, and it's this character, and she's a really minor villain in the Spider-Man comics, but she has this like social media game where she has like these people and like they're her followers. She's trying to get all these like follows online, but she has like kidnapped hostages in the city, and they're all in danger. And Spider-Man has to like rescue them, and there's like time limits. They're just like bombs or something. And like there's people with cameras and their phones and everything watching this go on, and they're all like putting it up online as like it's an entertainment game thing. And she's just doing it to get more follows.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really cool, like it's only a little side quest, but it's a really cool one.
But a lot of little side quests are really interesting in it.
That's very like Batman, but within the Spider-Man world.
No,
you wouldn't really have someone like you'd have someone that messed up in Gotham.
True, yeah.
But to go to like to be all advanced using like internet is definitely a much more Spider-Man world, which is great.
Yeah, no, because I suppose Batman always feels like it's within us, even though it's like always modern. It does always feel like it's within a certain timeline. Like there's sort of a 50s gangster thing going on always with Batman, whereas Spider-Man has always been kind of up to date and more modern. But yeah, it's just they nailed the Spider-Man experience.
My
I
only
felt
criticism of the Spider-Man game is similar to Horizon as well.
Yeah,
is that although they're really really good games, they're actually quite short in terms of once you're done with them, you're done with them. Like I have absolutely no reason to go back and play that game now.
No, not particularly. No,
because I've done everything.
Yeah, and when you've done it all, you've done it all. That's the truth.
There's very little, unlike something like GTA, whereas if you complete GTA, even if you did absolutely everything possible in GTA, just going into that world and just getting into a car and driving around, like it's fun just to explore that world.
Yeah.
Whereas Spider-Man, because you are swinging above the city and you can go from one end to the other in a matter of seconds, there's very little incentive to actually, really explore that world. There's not much to it.
Yeah.
So that'd be my only criticism of it.
Where did it rank for you?
This year or that year?
That year, yeah.
Yeah, probably would be my second favorite.
Okay, as well, yeah.
Yeah.
Did what do you think of the suit? Because they took some liberties with the Spider-Man suit. The first one that you get, like the actual design of it with the white spider on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
I changed it back to the original, to the one you start off with, because I'm like, but there's like, because I do like that you have the option to change into lots of different ones, and they make references to the comics and the films and everything. But I was like, but if you give me the one he starts off with to be able to wear, why would I wear, like, I want to be Spider-Man, so I'm going to wear the Spider-Man outfit. So why would I wear this new white one, to be honest? Was actually my opinion.
Okay, fair.
Also, I think the one you start off with has the ability to give you health or something like that.
No, the first one and the White Spider, I think, have they don't have any additional abilities, really.
All right.
As the other suits do.
All right.
I liked the White Spider because they clearly took like the red and blue normal, like, famous costume. Yeah. But they took the White Spider from the Venom suit.
Yeah. I thought it was
That's what
cool.
It's from.
Yeah.
Oh.
As a reference, like, so.
Aren't you able to wear that outfit? Isn't that a costume you're able to get? Is the Venom suit?
Venom suit. I'm not sure.
I don't remember it.
For story reasons, it would make sense not to do it because
I don't remember it.
They are insinuating that even though he has met a lot of the other villains and he's had quite a career as Spider-Man, he hasn't met Venom yet.
Okay.
And that will come up in sequels.
I mean, the way the game ends as well, like, that has me hyped for the next one.
Yeah, and it's another thing where, like, the first one is a great game, but I think, kind of like we said with Horizon, I think the sequel
is going to be
fucking fantastic.
And I think we're going to get that quite soon, actually. I think that's going to be early on in the PS5 life cycle.
Yeah, I would say either late next year or early the following year.
Yeah.
I would think. Probably. Like, we'll probably hear mention of it maybe at the end of this year.
Yeah. I think that and Horizon are probably going to be the
big sellers.
Definitely not launch titles, but within the first few years of PS5.
I think so as well. Yeah, I think so as well. Because I'd say that they're definitely already... Well, sorry, they are already working on them.
Yeah.
That was announced. Like,
Sony bought Insomniac, so...
They worked straight into the sequel for Spider-Man. Like, because they'd set it up, they had hoped, and thank God it went well, they had hoped, like, they'd set it up that we want to do a sequel. We want this to be a series of games. And it should be, because it is good enough to warrant a series of games.
I don't like when games and films do that.
I think it depends on what they are, because
Horizon does the same.
Yeah, okay.
It ends with an open ending, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, well, Gorilla, this was a very big leap for you, and you were taking so what if it didn't do well? Now it's like, because Mass Effect Andromeda does that, and I'm like, I am curious to know where they were going with that, but because it flopped so much and because it didn't do well, they're not probably going to make a sequel now.
Yeah, but it's like, I do like it because it's almost like it's not a cliffhanger. It's open to the possibility of a second. It works without having to do a second.
I see where you're coming from, but I also see, like, if you watch a horror movie, and a good horror movie usually ends on a last minute, but here's what, like, they're not out of the woods yet, right?
Yeah.
Does everyone get what I'm trying to say? Like, there's always, like, a little, like, for example, season 1 of Stranger Things, actually, right? When Will is in the house and he has this like freak out moment where he's actually still within the upside down, and he pukes out a little slug into the sink.
Mm-hmm.
That could have never had another season, and it would have been a perfect ending just to go, like, it wasn't really a happy ending.
Yeah.
But also, because it did well, they were able to follow up with a sequel. So in that sense, I suppose in particular this Spider-Man game, it ends with such a way of like Spider-Man saved the day, but his fight is far from over.
And we know that's usual of a Spider-Man.
Yeah,
like,
there's always going to be more.
Spider-Man's never going to have a happy life.
No, he's not. And that's a big part of his whole story,
Yeah, he's cursed to always fight the next
there's a great... Stan Lee gave an interview once where he talked about... like, he had a story once with Spider-Man where... And, like, they'd never done it with other superheroes. Where there's, like, an issue very early on within the Spider-Man comics where his, like, costume got ripped. And he's like, God, I gotta sew my costume back together. And he has to go get sewing supplies. And he has to go to the apartment and actually, like, sew it together.
Yeah.
And because he always lived in an apartment. He didn't have, like, a super lair or anything. Like, Spider-Man was always just, like, a normal guy. Even though he had powers. Which is why, like... Because people will always say, like, Batman's my favorite because he's the most relatable. In many ways, Spider-Man, like, apart from the powers...
Way more relatable.
More relatable. Because he's just this guy who has, like, nothing. Who's just trying to get by and do the right thing, And it's so Spider-Man, I suppose, is like, if you had powers, what would you do?
Yeah.
You would still have to deal with the shit in your life. That all wouldn't just go away, But yeah, I think they just nailed the character and the experience. People didn't like. I noticed a lot of people were saying it online. They didn't like the Mary Jane sequences where you play as Mary Jane.
Yeah, they weren't very good.
Okay, I actually liked them.
I didn't mind them.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. But yeah, no, I mean, most people didn't like them. So how come you didn't like them?
It always felt like kind of like the Ashley sequences in Resident Evil 4.
Right,
or something like that,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's not as bad as the Mary Jane bit, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Because I dread playing as Ashley.
Yeah, playing as Ashley is not good, but it's just the sequence isn't that long, and it just heightens the scare factor. So it works in that.
Works in a horror context.
Whereas in Spider-Man, it's okay, all this like fast-paced action that you're used to, and this is what the whole selling point of the game is to be fast action stuff. Let's just remove all that and do a really uninspired stealth sequence, which I've played stealth games.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
This is not the top stealth mission
I've
ever played.
So. People always, I think, hate those moments where the thing that they... like the main gameplay is taken away from them.
Yes.
And I actually always liked them because I don't like them to happen too often.
Right.
But I do like just
I think they are a bit too often in Spider-Man.
They break up the action a bit, and they add another little story on it. So like, it'll always go back to like some of the earlier games that we played. So like in Final Fantasy VII, for example, there's these like mini game moments like the driving on the motorbike, right? Where the gameplay you're used to is totally taken away from you, but it's only for a brief moment and it works in the moment, right?
Yeah.
The reason I like the Mary Jane elements is because, from a character perspective, I think they portrayed Mary Jane really well. So I liked spending a bit more time with her. That was kind of...
Yeah, I like that as well. I didn't mind it the first time.
Yeah.
And then the second time I was like, okay, I'll deal with it. But then the third time I was like, Jesus, like this is happening just a little too often. And then the next time that happens, you're like, here.
There's 4 altogether, isn't there?
Yeah,
I think there's 4 moments altogether.
Because there's nothing new every segment. There's absolutely nothing new. And the only time where I actually... Nah, not really.
There's a great... Sorry, in the train station is great. She's in the train station and she has to pinpoint the enemies, but
yeah, that's good.
And she
I like that.
Like signals when Spider-Man should take him down. So you're seeing Spider-Man do his takedowns, but from her perspective.
Yeah.
That was great.
That segment works, and I think it works with the Tombstone one as well. Because there is a horror aspect to that. And
he's like creepy.
That works. Whereas with the other parts, it's just like, whatever. Like, it's not fun. It's not tense. It's not hard.
Because I remember, like, you're in the Oscorp building at one point as well. And I was just so interested. I was like, as her looking around. And they have her as a journalist in this version. I think that works a lot better than the notion of, like, a struggling actress or something like that. I think the April O'Neil version of Mary Jane,
she's really cool in it.
I think works a lot better and fits her into the story a bit more. Yeah. Like there would have been an issue. I get why they get you to play as Mary Jane, because she can't swing around with Spider-Man, and as a result, she wouldn't be in the game very much. I don't think, if it was just moments where you go and talk to her, because you don't have time.
I think I'd be a little bit. So I just think it'd be much more interesting if the sequences weren't the same the whole way through.
Yeah.
So like the train station, that's pretty cool, and the Tombstone one, that's really cool. But the one where you're in like Oscorp, like instead of it just being the same crouched and hiding behind obstacles, give us kind of like a Arkham Origins style investigation.
Like piecing something together, that
something
that
really maybe cool. It's something that Spider-Man's tends not to do that much, like she has this ability now and Spider-Man needs her help because she has this journalist ability. Like I think that would have shaken things up a little bit and made it more interesting.
Do you think it's better than the Arkham games? No,
definitely not.
Well, you must think it's better than at least one of them.
Yeah, well, like I think with great power, great responsibility and all that kind of stuff, I think as series go on, I don't know whether it's studios tend to focus on their own thing. I mean, we even saw that with Uncharted. Although Uncharted 3 is one of my favorite, you can easily see how Uncharted got out of control.
Yeah, but yeah.
We can see that with the Arkham series as well. It gets out of control.
Yeah. Like it's like the next Spider-Man game is going to be phenomenal.
Resident Evil got massively out of control.
But Spider-Man 3, maybe not so much.
But that's something that's reflected not only in the games industry, it's in the films industry, it's in TV shows.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about.
You lose that new feeling, I think. Or I think it's hard to stay inspired, maybe.
Yeah, it's hard to just keep the thing feeling new and fresh. And I think that's probably a problem. You don't have to make it feel new and fresh every time.
No.
You can just, tweak it here and there, but it doesn't have to be like, oh yeah, what's a whole new mechanic we can add and change.
Yeah, because it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
It's like, give us a new story.
One thing I didn't actually like about the Arkham games, because obviously Spider-Man and Arkham very similar, is, obviously Arkham Asylum really does feel like this came straight after the comics.
Yeah,
it does, yeah.
And then Arkham City feels less so, and then Arkham Origins even less so, and then Arkham... so they did actually lose control because they ended up feeling not like this was part of the same universe at all.
In many ways, really design and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and then, because obviously with Arkham Asylum you have the character bios, which are all, the comic-style design.
Yeah, it's
and then
fucking cool.
Then they just went off the walls and went, we're just going to kind of ignore all that, and all these new villains are now people you didn't know.
Yeah. But my take with Spider-Man compared to the Arkham games is kind of like Tomb Raider to Uncharted.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I really, really like the new Tomb Raider games.
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty clear that it took inspiration from Uncharted.
Yes.
But I don't prefer it, and I'm kind of the same here. Like this new Spider-Man, although it's got a lot in common with Spider-Man 2, but if you go back and play Spider-Man 2, like
well, it doesn't hold up.
No.
So
it definitely takes a lot from the Arkham games.
Yeah,
but I prefer the Arkham games over Spider-Man.
I do as well, but that could be down to just preferring Batman and his world as well. Like it could be, but also I suppose when like one of the things that jarred at me a little bit with Spider-Man, and I know he does have them, but like the gadgets don't totally like feel weird to me with Spider-Man.
Really?
Yeah, they do. Whereas with Batman, I expect every gadget in the book, like, you know.
Yeah.
So when utilizing gadgets as Batman is cool, utilizing gadgets as Spider-Man feels a bit like a game gimmick to me. I don't know. Like I know it's in the comics and I do know it's in the movie stuff, but I just always think of Spider-Man with just his webs, his spider sense, and his wits. You know, that's so I always prefer just doing like environmental takedowns more so, or physical takedowns, or webbing people up. So having to use like little like electricity things and stuff like that, like it's
like those stuff, yeah. But I like the
stuff.
multiple like kind of web combo style gadgets.
Oh, the web combos were fine with me, because he does make his,
they're really cool.
Web spinners and stuff. So.
Like my favorite is the one where you throw it against the wall, and when someone walks past it, it like shoots out from the wall and it sticks them to the wall. Then
like
it's like a tripwire kind of.
Yeah, it's really
I really
good.
like that one.
No, so it's great. That's a great way to keep chip. Yeah. So Spider-Man, Insomniac Spider-Man on the PS4 was mine and Adam's second favorite game from 2018. Eric,
yes,
the black sheep who differs.
Yes, I do differ. I think it was Detroit Become Human was my second favorite.
By Quantic Dream,
by
we've
Quantic
talked
Dreams.
about before.
Yes, they did Heavy Rain and Fahrenheit, and they did the other one, Beyond Two Souls.
Yeah,
and they did this one, which I thought was absolutely class. It was a great story talking about, deals with discrimination, racism, but uses androids to tell this story.
Yes.
And the idea of the economic change that can come with introducing androids, how essentially if you bring in this workforce that can do everything and don't ever tire and won't complain, everyone else will lose their jobs, and then that obviously leads to the discrimination factor.
Yes, yeah.
Which naturally is a thing that all societies always face.
It's a fascinating topic.
Yes.
The idea of, and we've actually talked about this many times before,
AI?
the three of us. AI. No, but even more so, making robots
more human.
Yeah, sorry.
More human.
Making
human.
an object look like a person.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's a fascinating topic because it brings up all these interesting like debates and ideas of like ethics and like if we can do it, should we do it? Or and then if they exist, how should they be treated? What's their role in society? And then people's treatment of them, and is that okay? Like it's like, so if I have a robot that looks very attractive and I decide, well, I can just own it and do what I want with it, it's like, and is that okay? And it's like, well, it's a robot, so of course it is. And then it's like, but why did you have to make it look so human? And why are you deciding, like, you wouldn't treat your hoover that way, so why, like,
some people do.
So actually some people might. So you're actually using like an outlet that maybe, that's an unhealthy thing to do.
They briefly
weird.
actually deal with that because there's one of the characters you play as is an android known as Connor, made by the main android developing company CyberLife, and he's a detective.
Yeah.
So he's going around, he's solving all of these crimes that deal with androids who go rogue or go deviant, as they call it in the game. And one of the bits, you go into a brothel, a whorehouse, where all the
or just a brothel.
Well, yeah, brothel, sure.
They're just hard-working robots, man. Don't be shaming.
Where all they're all androids anyway. So people go in and they pay for androids and essentially do whatever the hell they want.
Yes.
And they're like allowed to.
Yes.
And eventually one of them goes deviant, goes rogue, and kills him because the deviants,
she kills the client.
She kills the client, right? Because the deviants gain the concept of emotion.
Yeah.
So they gain the idea of knowing what's right and what's wrong, and sees how this client is treating them, so kills the client. So that brings up that, again, ethic point of that if they have a conscience and are aware of what's right and wrong and an emotional scale and everything, that they should be treated more like people rather than objects, no matter what they are.
Yeah, it's
deep game.
It is a deep game, and it's we haven't actually said the gameplay is very like Heavy Rain or Until Dawn or a lot of those choice-based ones that have come up many times before with quick time events, and depending on how you choose determines how the game plays out.
Yes.
It was my third favorite that game, so I actually that year even, so it was like I really enjoyed the game as well. And I think like I couldn't get into Quantic Dreams Beyond Two Souls. I think this is more of a return to form for Quantic Dream.
Yeah, it's much. It feels way more like Heavy Rain. Yeah.
I don't think it's better than Heavy Rain, personally.
No, I don't.
But I wouldn't argue with someone who does, because they might prefer those sci-fi themes, or you know. But the music and the tone of the world and everything is a bit closer to like the Heavy Rain feeling.
Yes. I love the escalation. So again, because it's choice based, different things happen, but most of the time it would kind of head towards the same path. Like Heavy Rain as well, it always heads.
Yeah, there is a plot,
Yeah. But just the escalation of how small it starts. So you play as three characters: Kara, Marcus, and Connor. And Connor is at first just like, oh, there's a few androids going a little rogue, and they're attacking their owners.
Their owners, yeah.
For lack of a better word, who are being abusive. And then it builds up into becoming this revolution. And Marcus starts off as just this guy who's wrongly accused by a human. And because Marcus is an android, he has no rights to defend himself. So he gets disassembled, thrown into what looks like android hell.
Yeah, that scene is great.
It's a great scene.
It's really good.
Crawl
really
out of that.
And fucked up.
You find these... It's really fucked up.
It's really messed up, even though
they're just androids. They're machines.
Just robots. Yeah, but it is...
But it's just... Looks like hell.
Yeah,
it does genuinely look like hell.
Horrible.
So he crawls out of that and he finds a bunch of androids who are just hiding out, and then he becomes leader of this resistance. And then Kara, who starts off as just a house worker, becomes a mother figure. Yeah. So just their scale of how they build up and how the story progresses is phenomenal.
So there's three androids that you play as throughout the story, and they all have very different roles. Out of curiosity, and we've all played this game, have we?
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, which was your favourite storyline? Because the three of them are very different stories. So unlike Heavy Rain, where they're all looking for the same thing, well, I suppose in this, the thing that they're looking for, it's all to do with like the debate of rights for AI and stuff like that. But they are all on their own little separate stories. So whose story was your favourite? Start with you, Eric.
Connor's? I think Connor's. Yeah.
Okay. The detective story.
Yeah, I think Connor's is my favourite. I do know that because for the menu, they do the Turing test, which is great.
It's really good. Fucking love the menu.
So they have this android.
The best thing about the game is the fucking menu, man.
They have an android
that talks to...
and her name is Chloe. Its name, whichever way you want to phrase it, is Chloe. And sometimes you make decisions, let's say they were good decisions or bad decisions, when you quit out to the menu, she will react to them. And there's also a quiz or
that's right,
thing you can do, and she asks you very weird questions, one of them being, do you believe in God, and all that sort of stuff. And one of those questions is, whose campaign did you prefer? I think I did answer with Connor at the time.
Oh, okay, yeah. How about you, Adam?
I think Kara.
Yeah, I like Kara as well.
Yeah. I just preferred the it's a much more personal journey, I think, than the other two.
Yeah.
I think Connor's can go kind of either way depending on your outlook of the situation, I suppose what you think of the deviants, what's your attitude towards them, so you can kind of reflect that onto Connor. You can make that a little bit more personal. Marcus, I felt, was just a bit wacky. That was.
I found it really hard to like Marcus's plot. I liked it at first, but after a while, I felt like it was one of those big Ubisoft style games where it's like
it's a bit silly.
Lead the robot revolution. Yeah, I know. Like some people are probably that would be their favorite aspect of the game. I also liked Kara's because I thought the become human aspect of the game.
It's reflected through her. Yeah, it's definitely reflecting her the best. And like you can see how she, as this character, goes from being owned to, looking for, I suppose,
safe haven.
Yeah, but she's not necessarily like proud of what she's done either, and just the kind of her reveal of her relationship with some of the other characters, I thought that was really, really good.
But she also has, I think, the most interesting journey because she meets all these weird, strange characters along the way.
Yeah.
And so she gets lost in this world of, robots on the run kind of thing.
Yeah.
That I just thought was great, and then next I think Connor's works best for me because, like, those two are so she's the fugitive and he's the detective, but they're both robots.
Yeah.
So that aspect works for me, and there's even a point where he is chasing her, and at different points in it you're playing as the two of them, and you're like, well, if I'm him I want to catch her, but if I'm her I want to get away. So I found myself like fighting myself.
Yeah,
really, I thought those really,
moments
like,
were
across
pretty
the
good.
motorway.
It was very like
really
the Norman Jaden and I suppose
Ethan Mars
dynamic.
relationship.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
But the game could have been. I think it could have been a lot stronger if Marcus wasn't playable, and Marcus was this constant,
this like leader that people look up to.
Yeah, but you never see him.
Yeah.
You just hear about it.
Yeah, well, there's the RA9 thing that they never quite clear up.
No, they don't.
Sorry to spoil that on you, but they don't.
No,
I'm not spoiling it. I mean, you won't figure it out.
They don't answer that. No.
I think maybe they wanted to leave it open for debate or discussion.
I think it's probably more kind of along the lines of some messianic figure, some sort of god-like idea that the androids have come up with RA9 and they worship RA9 and believe in RA9. They make sculptures to RA9. It sounds
like a bit of code.
Yeah, I think it's like
I think it's the code that sets them free.
It's like an error or something like that, and then when they
so they look at it as their release, like RA9 set me free, or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong.
But they treat Marcus
as RA9.
As RA9, like. So there is this kind of really, I think, with Marcus, a really cool messianic kind of
there's a cool story
ideology
there.
with him.
Yeah.
But
it just feels a bit bigger than the other two, and a more grounded story for me worked.
Yeah, that's true.
His is a much bigger,
grander,
like take on the world type thing.
Yes.
Like I'm going to change the world.
But back to the point of like making, like, when you have Connor chasing after Kara and Kara trying to get away from Connor.
Yeah.
But the way I played it, Connor remained loyal.
Oh yeah.
So having Connor and Marcus fight each other was very cool.
Yeah.
Because again, it's like who do I side with and everything was very good. But the fight sequences were way better than that than any of the other.
Oh yeah, no, the fight sequences were really good.
So
the music.
The music was beautiful.
Fucking beautiful.
Beautiful.
Again, it's up there with the Heavy Rain soundtrack. I think the Heavy Rain soundtrack is still more emotional, like it's more gut wrenching for me, but the music is really good to this game. I remember getting the theme. I actually got like the special edition, and there's these behind the scenes videos and stuff, and they're well worth watching. Like they're really good. Yeah, they're really good.
I'll watch them then.
And their artwork was good.
Artwork's good.
There's a guy named Luther. Do you remember him? Big Luther.
I remember Big Luther.
He's fucking awesome. And there's a little video that they have. I think it's on the special edition where he starts singing this like slave song.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then loads of others
start joining in, and it's actually really moving. That's probably on YouTube. You should even just look that up. It's like very. If you see that, it's very much the core of the game. I think the feeling of the game and the themes of the game are reflected within that one scene.
Cool thing is Connor's and Hank's relationship.
Yeah,
throughout the game.
That's fun. I like Hank.
Yeah, Hank was great. So Hank is a detective you work with when you're playing as Connor, but Hank hates androids. So the idea of him having to work with an android and also like do these murder cases with dealing with androids is just drives him mental. And it's just a great relationship that you can have, where you can either make him hate you for the whole thing, or you can actually befriend him, and it's a really nice dynamic between the two because he.
And as Connor, I pissed Hank off so much, but it just worked. It was like this buddy cop thing. And after a while, he kind of likes you, but it's kind of a love-hate thing. It's kind of like you pissed me off, but I got your back when it comes down to it. But don't thank me for this kind of thing.
Yes.
Like it really, like those that dynamic worked really well, I thought.
And Luther's dynamic with Kara is really nice because he's like the big friendly giant.
Yeah, it's lovely.
He's a really nice character.
Well, that's the thing, like, because the little girl that Kara is looking after, her name is Alice, and their adventure, even though it is grounded and realistic, is the most like a wacky fairy tale, where like they'll come across the haunted house with the monsters, and then they have to cross the haunted river, kind of like, I'm fantasying it up, like, but like Alice, like they have loads of references to Alice in Wonderland on her particular journey.
Yeah, they do.
And so meeting the big friendly giant Luther, and then they go to a fairground at one point and everything. And remember that?
Like everything they encounter is like, I don't trust this, and then they end up being trustworthy.
Yeah, and it's really
I think
it's very interesting.
How they do that really nicely though is by starting off Kara's journey so horrible.
Yeah,
that every character you meet at the start.
My favorite character in the game is actually when Kara, Luther, and Alice go to that house, and it's just the mother with her son. And they're looking after you. Like that mother and she helps you across the river.
That's right, yeah. And you're always really waiting for something to go wrong, and
she's such a nice person.
And then it doesn't, and you're like, well, I can't paint. You can't paint everyone with the same brush, like, you know.
No.
But yeah, no, it's a fascinating game, and it plays just as well as any of those other choice-based games, really.
Yeah, and just to build up, the end of it is, I think, while it's very...
Which end?
So it depends on
your ending. Doesn't depend.
My ending was very satisfactory.
But right, okay, so you have a choice. The very end sequence, you have a choice with Marcus, where either you can lead a peaceful protest or you can full-on revolt.
Yeah.
Okay. First time I did the full-on revolt because it just felt more natural for Marcus to do that, and it's so satisfyingly epic.
Okay.
So, like,
see, I did the peaceful approach the whole way with Marcus.
Yeah.
All along. At no point did I get violent with Marcus at all.
Okay.
And I also found it really satisfying. Like, even in the last moment, and it totally depends on how you play it. But, like, they were about to shoot me, and I had a couple of choices.
Yeah.
And one of them was just to kiss the girl.
Yes.
That Marcus is in love with. And I just did that. And that moment of compassion on TV just made them all put their guns down and stop.
Yeah, I did.
And I just thought that was like that's powerful, you know, the power of love.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was it was so much cheese.
I liked it though. It's a nice idea.
There's another great one.
That's the thing. It's a nice idea.
Yeah,
but it just I think throughout that game, like a lot of it is just so on the nose.
Yeah, okay.
And which is why I didn't like Marcus's thing. It's almost as if the writer just read about Rosa Parks there just last year or something, and then was like just thought this was such a unique idea or something.
Well, they were heavily inspired by Blade Runner, right? For this game.
Well, in terms of idea. For the idea. Well, yeah, but I think Blade Runner asks much deeper questions about what does it mean to be human than
I think it's the same question.
Detroit.
It's just that Blade Runner does a monologue about it.
No, in Detroit it's a lot more like it's about discrimination and racism, but it's so like a repeat of what has happened in the past, and it's so like, do you get it?
Well, I'll tell you, the discrimination thing was an aspect I didn't like.
Yeah, I wasn't mad on it because I don't
the title
think
is Become Human.
Yeah, it didn't reflect quite well.
I don't think it's a do you get it. I think it's more of a no matter what, humans will kind of always seem to find something to discriminate against.
Yeah, I think they will, but it's just it's
so it's more of a I suppose don't repeat the mistakes of old, but not really a do you get it. This is what discrimination looks like.
Well, I did think it was so on the nose. Like,
it's very discrimination. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard though to,
because I think our discriminations are it's a lot broader now because we're a much more connected world.
Yes.
You know, it's not just a single minority anymore. There's so many people that fall under that umbrella.
Yeah.
But this just reverts back to now just being a single minority.
See, for me, the discrimination thing as a theme doesn't work because, like, it's fundamental to the game to be more about exploring what does it mean to be human, and what does it mean to be alive. Like, there was a big quote on the wall at one point that says, "I am alive," and I remember that's the one that I took and shared online.
Yeah.
I was like, because those are the important questions. Like, what determines whether something is alive or not? Is it purely just intelligence? Is it original thought? Is all these kind of things? The discrimination thing would have worked if this was about a separate species or something that was living amongst us.
Yes, I think so too.
Then it would have worked. But robots are not alive.
No.
So it's not a species. So you cannot discriminate against them because it's a robot.
Yeah.
So, like, for me to ask the question, to first of all focus on the question of is it alive and come to that conclusion. And then maybe if they wanted to do a sequel, then you go, okay, we've determined maybe in this, we've decided they are alive. Now what rights are they?
Yeah.
You know, that's like a follow-up for me.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, if it is alive, now what rights do they deserve versus everyone else?
Yeah.
But
like, I mean, even the whole, like, whether it's trying to explore what it means to be human, which is you just mentioned is in Blade Runner, or even about robots' rights in society, has been explored with The Matrix and iRobot. Like, all of this has been done. There's nothing original about this story. That's my issue with it. There's absolutely nothing original about it.
Yeah, but it's awesome, so shut up.
Which is why I prefer the Kara story over the other two, just because it's way more personal and it does explore like all of those things, but in a much more subtle way. It's not like with Marcus, you're kind of like, oh yeah, do you want to play as Martin Luther King or Malcolm X? Yeah. That's basically it.
Yeah.
And it's like, is there no other? Nothing else in this character.
The Kara story worked for me as well, because of the three, I think it is the most original story.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
the idea of a robot. I won't go into any kind of spoilers on her story, but the idea of a robot looking after a human girl, as if she was her own child.
But what's also great about that story
is brilliant.
Is because that's what she's programmed to do.
Yes. So then you're wondering, is this a free choice,
or is
she just following the directive of what she was made to do? Yeah.
And it also goes back into us genetically as humans.
Yeah.
Are we carrying out free will, or are we doing what we're programmed to do genetically? And I think that's the type of shit this game needs to be exploring. It's like how similar we are to a robot. Not, it's just some of the stories in it is just wacky. So wacky.
Whacking inflatable arm, flailing tube man. That's not wacky. Like, at no point does a robot dress as a clown or anything. Like, people are like going to this going, Adam, what the fuck are you talking about? It's quite grim and grounded. Why is it called Detroit, other than the fact that it's based in Detroit?
That's why it's called Detroit. It's based in Detroit.
I think it's because
Become Human is a good title.
Yeah, Become Human is good, but I think it's because Detroit, as an area, which is as well, I don't like it as a title, and that's one thing I don't like about a lot of Western games is that they're always based in the US. It's like how are we all supposed to relate?
See, that was my point against Horizon Zero Dawn, setting in Colorado.
I think that's a good point. I think it's a good point.
Like, I mean, that could be based anywhere.
Yeah, it didn't have to.
So why
but it being based in Colorado doesn't actually have an impact on the story.
But the fact that this game is called Detroit.
It's called Detroit, and it's called Detroit because I believe it's something to do with Detroit being a very multicultural area, and it did deal with these type of issues in the past.
Isn't Detroit like kind of... Because Detroit's kind of very often used as the kind of epicenter of androids and stuff. Like RoboCop, Detroit. I think iRobot might be Detroit. I could be completely wrong about that. Please don't quote me on it. But
were either of them in Detroit?
Well, RoboCop's Detroit.
Yeah, okay, RoboCop is, yeah.
And I think that they use that because Detroit's like one of the least cities to end up becoming that advanced. Because it has so many multicultures, it has so many problems and so much poverty.
Possibly.
And it's kind of like an industrial, which is kind of a nice, what's the term?
Reference, callback.
Oxymoron even.
Juxtapose.
It's a nice juxtaposition. Yeah. You just have the big words now for the second last episode.
Welcome to Juxtapositions with Eric McGuire.
But I think that is the reason which it's like, yeah, that's great and all, but I have absolutely no idea what Detroit's like. Therefore, that's lost on me. You know what I mean?
Right, okay.
It's like if I read about it, okay, now I can see why it's called Detroit. But there's absolutely nothing in this game. Like, this could be anywhere.
I see your criticism, but I think that problem could fall no matter where you placed it.
They don't have to call it.
I know. No, I know. Yeah. I wouldn't have called it anything.
They can have a base in Detroit.
I would have made it personally. I would have made it a fictional city because it's set in the future, and I wouldn't have said where it's based. Right? Like sure. I wouldn't have even because it doesn't matter. The themes that are going on are what matter. Like it does not matter that this game is in Detroit or whether it was in New Jersey, Washington, London. That doesn't fucking matter. What matters is the actual themes that they're exploring and the become human thing. And for me personally, they captured that the best with Kara's storyline.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think it's well worth playing, especially if you like those choice-based games. Like I think it's one of the better ones of those choice-based games. I do think other games have been less messy or a little bit better, less muddled. But I do think this is one of the better ones of those games, and I do think it's.
I do wonder why they pushed the whole Marcus and Connor, I suppose, more so than Kara. Because if you look at the promotional material, Marcus is the face of that. Really. Is
he? Because I always thought Kara was.
The Kara was the first one they ever made and showed.
Yeah.
It was for that. It was just for that tech demo.
I remember last year's International Women's Day, PlayStation shared their iconic female characters, and they included Kara on it.
That's because Marcus isn't, lovely. I suppose,
a female.
No, I know that,
but he might identify as one. Adam.
I haven't seen him anywhere.
He's on the cover.
He's on the cover of the. He is the cover of Detroit.
Oh,
he's the only bloody face on it, like.
Well, you got me there, guys.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like,
fucking true.
It's a bit weird that like Kara is the introduction of it, like with that with that trailer, which I think that trailer is still better than the game.
No, the game is no. The trailer is really good, like, but the game is.
It captures good. Everything. If you look at that trailer, you can kind of go, I get what this game is going to be about.
Yeah.
But then you only get it through Kara's story. You don't get it through the rest.
Oh no, I like the experience of Connor's as well. Like 2/3 of the campaign, I really enjoyed. And 1/3 of the campaign, it started really good for me. Like at the start when he's looking after Lance Henriksen.
Yeah, that's nice.
And doing like the painting and stuff. And that bit in the junkyard is fucking totally memorable. Like that is amazing. It's from then onwards when he becomes part of this resistance thing that's going on. And he does these little missions like going into a radio station to fucking and parachuting out of buildings and stuff and like doing graffiti and all this. That's the stuff that I didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
Which in reality is not most of the game.
No,
it's just a huge chunk of it.
No, it's just that it's like a big part of the game.
They're usually the biggest parts with so many different types of endings and outcomes.
The epic bits of the game, I suppose. Yeah. So, but for the other two campaigns, I think it's well worth playing. And it's not you don't choose separate campaigns, kind of like
no, you don't.
From the get go, it's just that it'll swap between the characters, much like Heavy Rain or Until Dawn.
Yeah.
One thing is really cool about Connor is. Because with Connor you can choose whether you join the resistance or stay on the side of the law, is that kind of hidden question of which is more important, which is people's civil rights or your kind of job or the laws of your country, which they explore.
I would hope your civil rights are
no, but like
included within the law.
But what I mean though is like
by it. I would hope.
But yeah, like the idea
your own morals. Or your
yes, your own morals or your duty to your people in your country.
Yeah.
So like Connor obviously is programmed to follow the law and to help the cops and everything hunt down these deviants, but then the deviants are only the way they are because of their mistreatment. So then it's what is more important, your programming or people's freedom.
Yeah.
Which they explore, which I think is really nice.
No, yeah, there's a lot of really good questions and really good moments in it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's Detroit.
Those were our two second favorite games of 2018, Detroit Become Human and Spider-Man. But our number one for 2018 was God of War, the reboot, remake,
/4,
rething, /4, recontinued.
Is it 4 or is it actually like 7?
There's like there's those little mini ones.
That's probably why they didn't put a number on it.
No,
they just went. You know what? It's God of War. Just forget the rest. Just fucking play this game.
Yeah, it's God of War 7 technically if you count all the other ones.
Is it?
Yeah, it's God of War 7.
That was quick math. So what did everyone like about God of War?
Replay value.
Nothing better than shitting yourself. No, but like, what's so good about it? You know, it's just a game. You know, what's so good about God of War?
It's
his boldness,
stunning, isn't it? Like, I mean, when you look at the game because like the PS4, it was kind of underpowered when it launched.
Yeah.
You know, and this many years into the life cycle of it, and this is what it's able to achieve still.
Yeah.
Apart from just being a visual masterpiece, just performance-wise as well. Like you were talking about the no loading thing in Arkham Knight.
That shit blows my mind.
And in this game, it's a single cut. It's a single camera. It just follows you the whole way through the game. Not once does it really break.
Yeah.
And it goes from cutscene straight into gameplay. That kind of stuff. It's actually almost distracting, I think. Like when I'm playing that game now, I can't unsee all the kind of the really good shit in it. Like when you're going through it's not necessarily the world tree, but you're kind of running around circles on a tree thing because you're waiting for the next area to load.
Right. Okay.
I can't unsee that now. I'm like, I know this is loading. This is to try and make you forget that
there's a loading.
It's not a loading screen,
but it is loading.
But it is a loading screen.
Yeah.
Technically, it's just you get to play it.
Yeah.
So yeah, all that like. Absolutely, it's really, really impressive.
It's also one of the first games where you can die on the loading screen.
Can you die on that tree?
Yeah, if you jump off the tree, you die.
How do you jump off the tree? You can't jump.
So there's when you're running around, there's a little section that comes off, and if you go up to it and press triangle or something, he just kind of falls off the tree and then he dies.
So don't do that, folks. Don't do that.
Yeah, that's a thing.
You've done that?
I've done that. That was the first thing I did when I was there. I was told, don't jump off the tree, so I jump off the tree. Don't tell me what to do.
You can't make me do this. I'll tell you what a game had me. Games usually get me at a certain moment.
Go on.
And then, if that sticks in my mind, it becomes a memorable experience. Or maybe many moments. There are many moments in this game.
So many moments.
But, so you're Kratos, you're looking after your son, Atreus.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been injured, and you're carrying him, right, to this tree.
Yeah.
Where there's a witch, right? To heal him. And the tree, moves.
And becomes
and you see this giant turtle thing. And it looks like something out of, the Never-Ending Story.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow!
What's really weird about
that's
that...
fucking amazing!
What I think is really weird about that is that...
I
swear to God, I absolutely thought that was from mythology. It fits so well.
Into that world,
that you swear that is... Norse fantasy.
You're like, oh, that's definitely something.
Yeah.
You don't know what it is.
Just they thought it looked cool, so they did it.
And then the other great big moment, again, there's loads, but being on the river, or the lake, sorry, and Jormungandr. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. I might be butchering the pronunciation, but the world serpent comes up, and you can see, if you look around,
you can just see it wrapped around the world.
Scale is
fucking huge.
The sense of scale in that game
just
really
looks so
good.
cool, and his beard is made of seaweed or stuff because he's been down in the water for so long. And just the designs of the creatures and everything is just incredible.
I think that when I first loaded it up, I was like, "This is beautiful."
Yeah.
I'm playing it. I'm like, I'm enjoying this. This is quite nice.
Mm-hmm.
But the bit where I was like, I'm in love with this game.
Yeah.
Is when the stranger calls. And you have this
so good.
You have this almost Marvel Captain America kind of style fist fight with him, and it's really cinematic, and it takes you from he punches you through the building, and then through trees, etc. And through a mountain. You punch
epic.
through a mountain.
It's fucking epic.
It's
you
so,
crack the world.
It's a little bit like
so
the
powerful.
Superman Zod fight in Man of Steel.
Yeah.
There's little elements of that where it's just
it's like these two gods characters just kicking the shit out of each other.
He was a really cool, conniving, slithery kind of villain, but incredibly strong, incredibly formidable. But just that actor just did I thought a really good job, with the voice and everything. I thought he was really good.
Yeah, he was great, because when I first saw him, I was like, who the hell is this? I thought he was a dwarf at first. I was like, oh,
he looked tiny.
Yeah, this is what dwarves look like. And then
I was really confused when he first looks at you and go, I thought you'd be bigger, and you're like, are you serious?
It's scrawny looking, but the minute he starts to heal, because obviously I read Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology, so I knew a lot of the mythologies and gods. And the minute he healed, I was like, oh my god, it's so cool, because I knew exactly who it was.
See, and I didn't, so that's the...
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's really interesting, because I knew a little bit of Norse mythology, but almost a ladybird baby's first steps to Norse mythology kind of
level.
Oh
yeah, like I had some knowledge of it, but not anywhere near.
Like familiar with the characters, but not necessarily on the events and how things would unfold and stuff like that. But even for someone who didn't really know anything, like the way they dealt with twists and turns in the game, I thought was really, really well executed. And then when I finished the game and went and read up on all that stuff, it was like, oh my god, like that was
most of
how they've kind of translated that mythology into their own story.
Yeah.
It was so well done.
Yeah, it was really well
done. And I love that shit.
The stories in it are actually also pretty accurate and correct. Obviously, just little slight twists and turns. Just
their
so
fiction is so accurate to the other fiction.
Their fiction is scientifically correct.
It's almost like they've treated the Norse mythology the way the Spider-Man or the Batman games treated their source material.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
and
that's
staying
so
really
cool,
true to it. Yeah. What did you think of moving to a Norse, because God of War was in a Greek setting, and Kratos is a Greek character. He's a Spartan. He's the ghost of Sparta.
Yeah.
What did you think about moving it to a Norse setting for this kind of reboot? Like, it's a continuation, but it is sort of a reboot of the series as well.
Yeah. I loved it because at the time I was in love with Norse mythology. Norse mythology was obviously becoming a big thing, especially with like even Marvel's Thor and everything.
Yeah.
So it made sense, and also Kratos being the brutish monster that he is, like just such an anger, kind of made sense to go to the harsh Northlands of Norse mythology, because the main gods are warlike gods as well.
Yeah.
So everything is violent and harsh up there, and brutish, so it made sense as well for Kratos' journey.
And yet he has never been calmer.
Yes, it's great.
There's a real sense of grief around Kratos in this game, and there's a real sense of anger just waiting under the surface to eventually come out, and it does come out in its moments, and when it does, like fucking hell,
really good,
because you're like, wow, this is such a departure. But sometimes when you're taking on an enemy and you do that takedown, and you go, there's Kratos. That's exactly like that's. It's not a departure. It's just an evolution. Like he's still there. He'll still fuck you up.
Well, all the God of War games are 18s. I feel like this one is the most mature.
Oh yeah, from a story.
Yeah, like because the other ones are like mature, like South Park is mature.
Yeah,
it's like it's just
mature
explicit
content. But I feel like Kratos was an angsty teenager in the first 6, and then for this one he's now actually well, there's 6 of them. Like he's an angsty teenager in all of them.
It's kind of like,
and then when this one he's now an adult with like a child.
Well, let me ask you this. Like in the original God of War games, it's a bit more kind of like Mortal Kombat.
Violence for the sake of violence.
Like it's just nuts. Like it's just he's just
it's
nuts
an arcade game.
And he fit into. He was actually in one of the Mortal Kombats because they recognize Kratos is one of those violent motherfuckers. He's just gonna come up and fatality everyone, right? Like that was the whole thing, and he was just like, I'll kill every god, and then there's one goddess he lets away, but not until he has his way with her. Like he's just this ridiculous He-Man macho kind of character, and then in this suddenly, it's like. So where I would compare them to like not the gameplay of Mortal Kombat, but the energy of Mortal Kombat, or the tone of Mortal Kombat. This is like The Last of Us.
Yes.
Very
there's
much
definitely
so. It's so
Last of Us inspired.
Those comparisons are there.
Yeah.
Which can get, it can get a little annoying seeing this repeat throughout different games.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's, I think it's. If you're trying to tell that story, there's no way you can not draw that comparison. Basically,
no.
It's like unfortunately, The Last of Us came first, so
yeah, it did, and it's not a criticism of God of War at all. It's just that comparison is there, and it's impossible. Not in the same way as like I said earlier on in the episode, like Spider-Man is like the Arkham games.
Yep.
That doesn't mean that Spider-Man's shit because it just copied off Arkham. It didn't copy off it. It's just that's what works. It makes sense. They did everything that a Spider-Man game should do. And for this evolution of Kratos' character, trying to move on and have a new family, and then trying to put something positive into the world and become an actual influence on something rather than just a force of destruction. it just made it made sense. The marriage made sense in a strange way because it shouldn't. This game should not make sense. Like,
why not?
Because I'll tell you why.
Go on then.
The God of War games were always fun, right? I thought they were fun. No. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this isn't fun. And what I'm saying is the God of War games were fun, right?
Mindless violence.
But they'd fucking never make it into any of my top 3 lists. Never. They were just fun.
Well, do you mean like top 3 PS2 games?
No. Like if I was going to go through the years and go, oh, my top 3 games that year, like God of War would never make it into the top 3. God of War was always like, I'm not bashing God of War. I'm saying like it's like Devil May Cry.
I don't know, man. That last year of PS2, God of War 2 would absolutely be in my top list.
I'll have to look back and see. But like, they were just fucking fun. Like, they're just good.
They're
literally good crack for the sake of good crack.
Well, it was the equivalent of the Devil May Cry series, right?
Yeah.
It was that, but God of War, not so much 3. Like 3 is good, but 2 has, in terms of how it utilizes the mythology and incorporates it into its story, is as good as this God of War.
I mean, it is, but like
the core story is not, obviously. The relationship between, like, the motivation as to why Kratos is wanting to complete his quest is not as good. But how they utilize mythology throughout it, like even in the first one, like being able to cut off Medusa's head and then use that as a weapon to
it's badass. But
that's so cool.
Yeah, that is cool. But that's what I'm saying. Like the original God of War games are ridiculous.
Yeah,
and they're fun and they're great crack. Throw it on with your mates. Butcher some gods, kill monsters, and just Kratos is the most ridiculous, angry character in existence.
Yeah.
So this game doesn't have that identity, and in some ways you'd go, this is like too much of a departure, and it's not my God of War at all. And yet, I think everyone who likes the original God of Wars would fucking love this game.
Yeah, to some extent.
I'm just saying it shouldn't work, but it does.
Yeah, it's odd how familiar it feels.
I think it works though because, like I said, this one is way more mature in its storytelling, but its audience as well has matured.
No, you see, it's like I tell you what, I'll draw another comparison, right? But,
okay, obviously we just didn't get it.
Right, we're not getting it. Apparently,
you're not getting what I'm getting at. Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
Right. Another series it's a bit of fun, right?
Right. Yeah.
Ninja Theory did a version of it.
Yes. And
right. That. The gameplay actually didn't change all that much.
No.
But they showed a very different Dante, and people were not having it because and even if he's a good character, even if he's written well and portrayed well, people were not having it because they're like, that is not my Dante. I've already known Dante, and that's not how Dante behaves. So this Kratos is so different.
I don't think
so. To the Kratos before.
I think this is a lot like when we were talking about Spiderman.
Yeah, okay.
About Octavius. It's like we as an audience know what these little subtleties in this character could end up being.
Yeah.
So we're familiar with the old Kratos, but he was a younger Kratos, and it just like the creators of the game were younger.
Yeah.
Like when you're a young chap, you're crazy, you're batshit, right? You're
he's an angsty teenager.
You're crowd diving at a concert.
But it wasn't a teenager.
He wasn't a teenager.
I know he wasn't a teenager. Well, actually, back in the day,
he is a lot older and a lot more.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
mature in this, and he's trying to do the one thing that he never had, obviously, which is be a father.
Yeah,
and he had one stab at it years ago, but then that didn't pan out.
Quite literally.
He had a stab at
it. He had a stab at his family.
So, yeah, it's as an audience, you're knowing this. What would be much more interesting is to hear someone who's never played the originals.
Yeah.
What's their take on it?
Yeah.
Do they get the nuances of the character's past? Because obviously we do.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Like we can see that it's under the surface all the time.
Yeah, and there's some moments, like you said, that do come out, and you're kind of like, we know that this guy can become really destructive, and he can kill everything around him. Like, he is afraid of himself.
And that's one of the great things that they looked at in this game. And there's a sense of restraint, and like because his son is obviously, because like. In any sort of mythology, if you're the son of a god, you're either a god yourself or a demigod of some kind. So Atreus as a boy hasn't yet discovered his power, but Kratos knows that potential is there, and he's like keeping it from him. He's like kept it a secret.
Yeah.
That they are gods, because like you said, Kratos is like afraid of his own strength and afraid of what it has brought on in the past, and he's just trying to get away from it all. Like he's come to Midgard. It's kind of weird. I don't know if Midgard is like alternate Earths or something, but he's like to the Greek version of Earth, because it's like, okay, which gods made humans? Like, which mythology is true? Which one? But anyway, that doesn't really matter.
Perhaps the gods have a god.
Yeah, maybe
Cthulhu.
It's like Cthulhu
awaken. But yeah, he's like keeping this a secret from his son. We know it.
Yeah.
But his son doesn't. So it's really.
What I really love about him going to the Norse land is obviously they've cut a lot out of the game, and we can see that because there's a couple of realms that you don't get to go to.
Mm-hmm.
They teased then at the end as well what the potential of the sequel would be.
Yeah,
so there's going to be a lot more games based in this Norse area, but are they going to go further?
Well, they do.
Is he going to go to Asia? Is there going to be Asian gods?
They do hint towards Celtic and Egyptian.
In that one, yeah, with the
in that God of War.
Well, Celtic wouldn't be. They could nearly tie that in with the Norse. It's not. It's not hugely different, but Asian would be.
Imagine that.
Way off.
Imagine that. That'd be fucking
fighting
nuts.
Chinese dragons.
Yeah, but the potential, like what I like is that they have this. It's not necessarily that's where they're going to go, but they have this potential that if at any point they want to do another reboot, maybe it's when the PlayStation 10's out.
Yeah.
They do have that potential to take this character wherever they want now, because they've opened the doors. It's not just Greek anymore.
Yeah.
There are other gods.
And they could take Kratos down different roads because they have...
Could you imagine if they went to Nazareth?
Somehow I feel like they won't.
Fights Jesus.
Boy.
It's like, get down off the cross. No, it's just he's just fighting with his will to continue.
Eventually, I just want to play a game where Kratos is just trying to do like mundane tasks, like wash the dishes and stuff. Boy.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a mod in that I Am Jesus game where you can just play as Kratos doing all those tasks.
What the fuck is I Am Jesus?
Have you not seen that? Yeah.
No.
It's a VR game where you get to play as Jesus. You just go around healing the blind.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Have you not seen that?
No, of course I haven't. Or I'd be going, oh yeah, rather than, what? Do you get to break bread and shit?
Yeah, you get to perform all the miracles.
Fucking class.
Yeah, and
that sounds
it
deadly.
has like real like.
When's that coming out?
Old school. Well, not old school, but the graphics are not good.
Of course, it's old school.
The graphics are great, but the cover art and everything just looks like almost like those straight to DVD style like History Channel kind of things. Yeah.
Class. I hope that the little booklet inside is on papyrus or something like that. Yeah. Fucking deadly. When's that coming out?
I don't know. It's probably out actually.
That's now my most anticipated game. I'm gonna buy a VR just to play that. I Am Jesus. Wow.
Jesus, PS4.
What did you just think of one of the big game? Like, there's a lot of gameplay changes, and it's a little bit more RPG.
Yeah, it's out.
Is it?
Yeah, there it is. There's the official trailer.
Everyone should look this up. I Am Jesus.
There's an article here that says, I am Jesus. Why does this exist?
Hey, when someone has a good idea, don't bash it, okay? He's
just raging he didn't come up with it first.
Exactly. So am I. But yeah, so like the new God of War has a lot of RPG elements that deviates it away from the other one. But another like big change is his weapon. So instead of the chain swords, he's got the axe. The Leviathan.
Yeah.
What do you think of the axe?
The chain swords.
Yeah, what are they called again?
The Blades of Chaos.
Blades of Chaos. That's right.
Now they have a different...
Blades of Exile, Blades of Chaos, Blades of... fucking Blades.
There's 7 other names.
Different swords in each one.
They're
Blades of Athena.
Are they? Yeah.
I think there's another one.
But what do you think of
the axe is great. The axe really works for that world and his lifestyle. The fact that he has this really powerful axe that he used to cut down trees.
And he looks like a lumberjack.
The return mechanic is the most satisfying thing,
yeah, I had so much fun with that.
You throw that, you press triangle, it comes back to you.
Yes.
But I even love just
the power of when it lands in his hand as well. It's such a great sound.
I loved throwing it and it will pin an enemy to a wall. Yeah. And then another enemy will be in front of you, and if you aim yourself basically and bring it back to you, it'll cut through them and back to you, and
the combo possibilities in the game are really, really good. There's even some combos that people are posting, and even Corey Barlog, the director himself, comments going, I didn't even know you could do that.
Figuring shit out.
Yeah, it's almost got that Mortal Kombat vibe, which is weird because you said it's nothing like it, but it does, because it has these kind of base combat mechanics, but if you add them all together, you can create almost these wacky fatalities.
Yeah, and it's cool. If you throw the axe away, if you don't call it straight away, he just goes punching. He just punches the shit out of enemies, goes straight to physical
and that adaptive
melee.
shield is really fucking cool.
Oh, it's fucking.
You can start punching with the shield.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome. But yeah, in general, I thought the new weapons and everything worked.
I think they really suit that world as well. Again, just the whole idea of having the round shield, having the axe. The axe is
the axe coming back thing is like Thor's hammer, right?
Yeah, it would be like Thor's hammer.
But it's way more satisfying than a hammer because it's an axe and it hacks through enemies and shit.
And it's way bigger than the hammer.
Yeah, so it was a bit and I think that year, was that the same year Infinity War came out? And so we'd all fucking seen Thor with Stormbreaker.
Yeah.
And I was I get to use that? Fucking awesome. It was great. The game is a little bit challenging, isn't it?
Yeah, there's definitely kind of a Souls level of challenge to it. Obviously it's not as difficult as the Souls games.
No, not at all.
That's not the aim of it. But you try to fight those Valkyries, then it kind of is.
They are very.
No, but even some of the bosses, I did not get through some of those bosses on first goes or anything. I found some of
even the Dark Elves are real. They're a real pain in the arse.
So there is definitely you gotta dodge and then attack and then time their attacks. So that's what I mean about the Souls aspect of it, is that the combat is a little bit more methodical, other than just slashing your way through everyone.
Yeah.
And
more
obviously they all have their own little health bars above their head as well, which again is a bit like the Souls games.
Yeah. I suppose I'm gonna ask this question now.
I don't know if I'm ready for this.
So we've said kind of in general things we liked about it, we liked the new direction, liked a lot of the graphics and designs, the visuals, the combat works really well, the characters, all that stuff. Why is it your favorite game from that year?
Because everything else was shit.
No, there was great games that year.
It just is the standout. It's so polished. It's quite original, although it's not original in terms of the way we can compare it to The Last of Us and its themes.
Yeah.
But its combat is very original. We said that with Spiderman, we really loved it, but you can draw comparisons to the Arkham games in terms of how it plays.
Yeah, of course.
There's no game out there that's like God of War. This is very original.
Oh, yeah.
The combat is not like any other game.
No.
It has a...
Not completely.
Yeah, it has almost like a fighter kind of mechanic in a third person, almost open world setting.
It's kind of weirdly an over shoulder shooter, but it's an over shoulder hack and slash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a bit actually. Yeah.
That's what it is.
So why was it your favorite game that you're
brilliant question.
One of these days we'll do an episode where it doesn't sound like a job interview.
Yeah, one of these days. The graphics, themes, all of it. Just all of it. It's amazing.
It's a good game. That's why.
It's tasty software.
I hope they hire me. Yeah, it's really good, guys. I like it.
Take me on. I know everything about Norse mythology.
Well, we're not alone at one game of the year. So.
Yeah, but that's not why. For me, whether one game of the year or not is my favorite game of that year, and the reason being, for me, other than the fact that I loved the reimagining of the character and everything, my favorite thing about the game was the visuals.
Oh, look at me! I'm Chris. I give a different answer.
What? No, I'm giving my honest answer. No, it just kept very creatively taking me off guard with these beautiful visuals, and these really interesting creature designs or even location designs.
Yeah. And
just like the game was way more visually stunning than anything I was expecting. Because I kind of I was expecting something along the lines of The Last of Us in terms of the journey, and I was satisfied with what I got. But I wasn't expecting so much visual flair that I felt, even though like God of War always had really cool creature designs and stuff.
Yeah.
This put some sort of emphasis on it, more so, and it really, I was like, holy shit! I was screenshotting God of War.
Yeah, and I think
it's more
than
I'd ever done before.
I think it's the most stunning game in HDR. Like if you have HDR on your TV,
that's fucking deadly.
It's like because of the particle effects. So when you kill something, or you access the what's it called? I can't even say that. The world
Yggdrasil.
That's the one. Tree.
Yeah, the world tree.
Yeah, when you access that, the particle effects there as well.
Yggdrasil. It's Yggdrasil.
Now say it with me, people.
Yggdrasil.
Say it again.
I'm here all week, folks.
Yggdrasil. But yeah, all that stuff was just fucking
Unless I'm pronouncing it
all
wrong.
of it is great.
All of it is great, and it's well worth your time.
What's really fascinating is that it was like a broken hot mess a few weeks before it launched.
Was it?
Wow.
So bad that the head of worldwide studios of Sony, he looked at it and went, "No, this is awful."
I remember being so happy for them with how well received it was. I remember seeing a video of Cory Barlog.
Yeah.
Is it Barlog? Because I always nearly say Balrog. Yes. Which is a fucking way cooler name. But I remember seeing the video where he posted up and he was just reading other people's reactions and stuff, and he teared up.
Yeah.
And he just said thank you to everyone. And it's just sort of, you go, you know what, like this game had a lot of hard work in it, and like Tomb Raider before, and I said it before, like they took a chance on this. This was not like fucking, if we do this, if we kind of take a Last of Us story narrative approach, and if we totally change up where, like that's what I meant earlier on with like God of War was a certain package.
Yeah.
And this is not the same at all. And yet, if you're a God of War fan, I think you'll fucking love this game. Like I don't think it alienates you. It's an evolution of what they'd had before, and I just think they fucking nailed it.
Yeah, it's I suppose what does it mean to be
human?
Part of what does it mean to be part of a game series? You know, like is Halo Wars not a Halo game because it's RTS?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You know, can some of these games that seem pretty stale, can they change their formula as long as they hold, I suppose, what's important to the character, to the world?
And I hope you take that question home with you folks. Debate it at home. So for 2018, God of War was our favorite game, and then our second favorites were Spiderman and Detroit Become Human.
Yes.
But there was a lot of other games out that year, and I'm sure people are going to be very mad at us for not naming one of them in particular, but there are a couple of others. But, you know, personal taste and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, Eric, you took down a list.
I took down a list.
Name out some of the other games that came out that year.
I'll leave the most... what's the one that most people probably say is their favorite of that year. I'll leave that one to last. So I'll just start with, there was Life is Strange 2.
Oh, yeah.
Beat Saber is a fun game. Overcooked 2, another fun game. Kingdom Come Deliverance, Fallout 76, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Far Cry 5, A Way Out, which was really pushing forward the idea of, hey, let's do 2-player again, because that was a thing lost with the PS4.
Yep.
Octopath Traveler, a kind of old school 8-bit kind of Final Fantasy style game, which just looks really beautiful. It's stylization. Monster Hunter World, fun kind of open world style game, and then the most obvious one is Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah,
which none of us had on our list, but
hey,
it's amazing, phenomenally well.
We are not saying anything bad about it. Okay, we're just limiting ourselves to our personal favorites. Okay, do not kill us.
Yeah,
we're trying to redeem ourselves. Okay, so that concludes our favorite games from the year 2018.
Yeah.
Next episode is 2019, which is the last year of this sort of first topic series.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we'll be discussing out of those games. We're kind of like this is kind of like brainstorming in a way. All these episodes are like year by year, which was our favorite. But then at the end of it, okay, if you had to break it down, answering the actual question, what was your favorite game of the decade? Which is following after that. So like that one, we'll get to go through a few, but it'll be I imagine kind of a quicker discussion because we've already broken down the reasons for why we like the games. So it'll just be picking out of the lot which ones were our kind of contenders for game of the decade, and then settling on that for me that was the game of the decade or whatever. Okay, so and we hope people get in touch to let us know their favorite games for 2018, and at the end of this also their own pick for game of the decade. So yeah, that finishes up this episode, and we'll see you guys next time.
That's it.
Bye.
Bye.